Hello there, everybody. Haven't been on live in a long time. I thought I'd pop in for 15 minutes or a half hour or so and see what everybody is up to. Hello, Sethra. Hello, everybody. To saying hello. We'll just say a blanket hello to everybody. I got my headset on tonight. Sometimes when I have my external microphone, I have to raise my voice to project, and then after a while, it just really strains my voice. So I'm going to keep the headset on tonight. So just so everybody understands what this is about, okay? I'm not here to answer questions about your personal astrological charts, okay? Here are the reasons why. Number one, you give me 1, 2, 3 planetary combinations in your horoscope. You're not filling me in on all the details I need to know about those planets, like degrees that they're at, all the subtle interactions that are going on in your horoscope that I prefer to look at in order to give interpretations. In addition to that, I do this professionally. So, I don't, yeah, I think you get the idea. It's not about that. But what I am here to do is to answer any questions you might have about astrology and to talk to you about that. So as soon as somebody is courageous enough to type in their first astrological question that seems like a topic that I'm ready to go into, then we'll get started. In the meantime, for those of you who are interested in experiencing my work in action, I do offer several different levels of astrological service. All of those are available through the astrological services page of my website, which you should see in the little link above where you see an eye there. So who is here tonight watched my Nakshatras video that I put up the other day? I know some people did because I saw a lot of people visiting it. Okay, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and see if anybody had any questions about any of the topics that I brought up in that Nakshatra video. If you did, feel free to ask here, but you can also feel free to ask any other astrologically related question. Okay, hello, Sandeep. So until somebody asks that first question, though, we're going to sit here and kind of go like this, for a really long period of time. So if you have a question, type it into the chat window. And again, if you're interested in scheduling something with me formally, you can do that at here. There we go. We just typed that in. Okay. So let's see if anybody has any questions astrologically that they want to talk about. So I did a video yesterday on what the nakshatras are, because I find there's a lot of confusion in regards to what the nakshatras actually are. A lot of people think that they are subsections of the zodiac, but they're not. Okay, so I have to interrupt myself. I just spoke a moment ago. I'm not going to read people's horoscopes here, okay? Because somebody just put something here about a reading, please. I am not here to do free readings for people, okay? So just so everybody knows, that's not the purpose of this. But I am here to answer general astrological questions. But back to what I was saying, the zodiac and the nakshatras are two separate things, and people get confused about that. So I did a recent video the other night to help to explain that a little more deeply in terms of what the nakshatras actually are and what the zodiac actually is. So the zodiac, for those of you who don't know, is 12 equal portions of the ecliptic. Okay, when a sidereal zodiac is used, then basically that's being mapped to the fixed stars and trying to adjust the ecliptic to the fixed stars. But that's where confusion begins to come into the equation, because really, when it boils down to it, the nakshatras are not part of the zodiac. They can be connected to the zodiac for the point of an interpretation. But rather than go deeply into that here, go watch the video because I did it the other night. So somebody said, can they ask how come the nakshatras seem to remain the same even when using a tropical zodiac? Because those calculations are using a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras. And I was just talking on that. Okay. The nakshatras and the zodiac are not the same thing. So in those of us who are using a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, we're not using tropical nakshatras. We're using sidereal nakshatras. So two separate calculations, right? So that's why. Okay. Okay. So be aware too, for those of you who are doing this, when you're asking questions like Saturn, Ketu, Jupiter, 3 planets will conjunct in Sagittarius. Oh, that makes sense. How will it affect Sagittarius people? Well, that would depend on the Sagittarius person's chart and what dasha they're in, because transits have to be taken in the context of dashas. Transits can only create what the dashas provide for. And so you have to take it in context of that. So you can only give very general things in regards to that. Using calculations I use, because I work with the tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, Saturn is in Capricorn right now. Okay. So Saturn, Ketu, and Jupiter all together. Well, there's going to be a crisis of belief or a crisis of philosophy on many levels in terms of values. That's just a simple thing, though. Okay. What are the nakshatras and combinations for wealth? Okay. First of all, given people combinations for wealth, it doesn't always work because you see, it depends upon the strength of those planets in the person's horoscope, whether that planet is doing more bad than it is good. So there's no standardized, this is good for wealth. And even with yogas are meant to be qualified, right? So if you have yogas for wealth, you have to see if those yogas can actually produce what they're supposed to produce. Yogas are really to get you to start thinking astrologically and to give you some ideas of, hey, this person has this, it might create that. But you have to go in and back it up with some substance and see if it's actually there in the horoscope by using things like Ishta and Kashta Phala, Shubha and Ashubha Phala, and all sorts of strength judgment things. Okay. So nakshatras for wealth, there's not really necessarily a nakshatra for wealth. I mean, a lot of people like to talk about Dhanishta being connected with wealth, but if you've got a beat up Mars, sure, it may make you focusing on trying to attain status, but it's going to exhaust you in the process, right? So you have to look at things on the holistic level and not just on the, is God going to give me a cookie level? Okay. All right. So basically, I just did a video on the nakshatras last night. So somebody's saying, so basically 0 degrees Aries starting is not 0 degrees Ashwini. It is if you're using a sidereal zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, okay? But Ashwini is not part of the zodiac, right? So here, let's hold up a second. Bum, 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 bum. Let's find our Earth model here. Okay, this is a microphone. It's not really the Earth, but we'll pretend it's a microphone. Okay, so this line that I'm drawing here, that's the apparent path of the sun, which is the ecliptic. The zodiac cuts that into 12 equal portions. If you're using a sidereal zodiac, they're adjusting that ecliptic to fixed star calculation so that it stays lined up in a certain scenario over time. Okay, but this is the path of the sun. That's what the zodiac is related to. As the earth rotates on its axis, the stars don't move north to south. They go east to west. If you're at the equator, you'll see sometimes a star is further north than it is south, but that's just because of the earth being tilted on its axis. So the sphere of the stars actually moves in relation to the rotation of the Earth on an easterly, westernly basis. I don't know if I said that correctly, but it moves east-west, right? So what the nakshatras are 27 equal portions of that stellar plane, okay? And both the tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras and sidereal zodiac with sidereal nakshatras are using where that stellar uh, division intersects the ecliptic division in order to connect the nakshatras with the zodiac. But it's important to understand that those two things are two different things. They're not the same thing. Okay? Nakshatras are not the zodiac. Okay. So that's a simple explanation, but I just did a whole video on it. You can search on my YouTube page. Okay, let's see what we can get going on here. Let's see. Can break a cloud, frozen water to the point water will fall from sky to the ground? I don't know. Can you do that? There's no such thing as the 7 most powerful nakshatras giving wealth. And I'll tell you why. Because basically, nakshatras are related to the planets that are in them, the planets that are connected to them as per Vimshotri Dasha. So many things determine whether nakshatras would produce one thing or the other. If you approach your life in this whole thing of going, I want wealth, I want status, you're going to miss so much of life, because really what the nakshatras are about is about growing your individual path, growing your relationship to your consciousness. You deal with that, all the rest of this stuff isn't going to matter quite as much. Okay. So, I don't want to say there's nakshatras that give wealth, because then somebody's going to go running away from this going, oh, that astrologer said this nakshatra will give wealth. I have this nakshatra, therefore I'm going to get a lot of money. No, there are so many different factors we have to look at in your chart. Somebody says Navamsha chart is for marriage, but if someone is not married, then how to apply them? Navamsha chart is not just for marriage. Navamsha chart is about where we find purpose in life, how we're anchoring our path in life. Some people anchor their path through marriage. Some people anchor their path by going to an ashram. It's so many different things. Okay. I don't understand what you're saying. 27 nakshatras are really all women's, and what for Abhijit nakshatra? That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see some other questions that we have. So somebody says some astrologers are of the opinion that Rahu and Ketu conjunct the moon cause mental health issues. What are my thoughts on this? Well, if you have a strong moon, not as bad. Okay. If you have a weak moon receiving a lot of difficult influences, like influences from Saturn, and Rahu's dispositor is in poor strength and the moon's really weak, then yeah, there's going to be some problems with that. Rahu, let's talk about Ketu moon first of all. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in scheduling a consultation with me, you can do so at the link I'm putting on the screen now. Okay, so let's go back to this. K2 has this tendency to suppress things. It's interesting because K2 is simultaneously the planet that can give liberation, and it's also the planet that can suppress us from attaining that liberation. Because K2 needs to point out to us those things that we need to let go of in order to be liberated. So when you have K2 connected to the moon, quite often there's a suppression of emotions. But those people who have K2 moon connections are generally very deep emotional people, but they exist in a world where emotional depth is not respected. And so they learn to develop these coping mechanisms in order to deal with the world, because they can't expose their emotions at all time. And then you'll have an experience come along, sometimes even just a small experience, that will trigger those emotions. And all of a sudden you have that person releasing tons and tons of emotions that they've stored and suppressed for a really long period of time. Now, when Rahu's connected to the moon, quite often what you have happening with that are concealed feelings, concealed emotions. That happens when people get so out of touch with their emotions that they don't even know what they feel. Or they may have this tendency to mask their true feelings to other people. And sometimes especially when the moon's weak and Rahu is creating a lot of difficulty in the chart. Rahu creates a lot of illusion. So the moon is the subjective nature of our mind. Okay, it's how we sense things, it's how we experience consciousness. So when that's weak and Rahu is creating a lot of problems for it, sure, it's going to create some illusionary emotions that, even though they're very valid because the person's experiencing them, may not have any concrete attachment to what other people would deem to be reality. Okay. Okay, please tell about difference between a direct and retrograde planet. First of all, retrograde planets are not bad. That's a complete misconception that a lot of people don't understand. Retrograde planets can be strong. Direct planets can be strong. Retrograde planets automatically get strong Chestabala, which is part of Shadbala scoring. But you have to look at the overall well-being of the planet through things, in terms of the system I use, through things like the Baladi Avastas and the Jagradati Avastas, equally things like what Lajatati Avastas the planet's involved in. All of those things make a difference in terms of the individual's overall experience of that planet. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay, so having a Pisces swampsha is considered good. But if Mercury, the Atmakaraka, is debilitated in Pisces swampsha, will it still be good? Okay, so first of all, I'm a big fan of people letting go of the concept of good and bad. You have your chart, you have your horoscope. It is what it is. That can only be good because it's here to help you in your life. Your experience of it can be difficult or easy. So in terms of Pisces swampsha with Mercury there, well, it's like swimming. It's like being in an ocean and you know how to swim barely enough to keep yourself from sinking and getting swallowed up into that ocean. Yeah. But you wish you could swim better so that you could tread water a little bit better so that you didn't keep sinking down into it in a manner that makes it uncomfortable for you, because really you'd like to experience that ocean. You'd like to experience that ocean of vast consciousness, but you keep kind of losing your grip on it and slipping away from it because you don't have any positive power of discrimination to help you through that particular experience. That's kind of what that's like. Yeah. But you also have to look at where the Atmakaraka is in the Rashi chart, as well as just the Navamsha. And you also have to see all the influences to that as well. Okay. So let's see what else we've got. Okay. So somebody's saying, and so thank you for saying thank you, is a malefic planet like Mars is retrograde and Sun, Saturn aspects it, then what will be? Well, that depends on the person's dasha. It depends on Baladi Avastas, and it depends on Jagradati Avastas. So there's no just coming out and saying this is going to create that every single time. Okay. Mars can be retrograde and it can be really strong, right? Mars is a cruel planet, but if it's in Capricorn, that's a cruel planet that's rocking and it's very helpful to the horoscope. Okay, so there are so many different things you have to take. And this is why I'm not here to read people's charts for them. Okay. Is there an optimal exalted placement for Rahu and Ketu? Are they always considered malefics? All right, so here's a good thing to get out of the habit of for people. I'm going to make a recommendation. Let go of the terms malefic and benefic. Okay. Instead, use the real terms, which are krura, which means cruel, and somya, which means gentle. Somya is like benefic, but somya means gentle. So gentle planets accomplish things or try to accomplish things in a harmonious manner. Whereas cruel planets are very dry, they're very forceful, they're very strong. So if you use the term malefic, it automatically makes you think bad. Bad planet. Let's, give you, like, let's punish you. It's not like that. Okay, so in terms of Rahu and Ketu are cruel planets. They achieve things cruelly. That's what they do. Can they be exalted? No, because they're not concrete planets that you can see in the sky. Okay. They were given the status of grahas, but you can't see them. You can see a physical manifestation of them. So they can't own signs. They can't have dignity. They can't be exalted or debilitated. A lot with the nodes depends upon the well-being or lack of well-being of the planet that rules them. Okay? That's how you understand how to judge the nodes. How did I come to use the tropical zodiac? That's a very long-winded story. I do follow Vedic astrology. I'm a Vedic astrologer, you know. So it's just I use a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras. So, okay. And actually, interestingly enough, if you go back and read some of the older texts, I forget which text it is of Varaha Mahira's, in which he says something which lets you know that he's confused as to why the rest of the world is switching to a tropical zodiac, whereas India is sticking with the sidereal zodiac. So it's all kind of up in the air which zodiac was really intended to be used with Vedic astrology. The original things being used in Vedic astrology were nakshatras. Most people would believe that Rashis came much later. So basically, just because people are using a tropical zodiac, it doesn't mean they're not doing Vedic astrology. Okay. The way I came to using the tropical zodiac, or using the zodiac that I use with sidereal nakshatras and a specific ayanamsha, and I think we have to be clear with all that, is after using sidereal with Lahiri ayanamsha for a very long period of time, I found myself always grasping at things, and I was finding things weren't lining up nicely and neatly. Like I would want them to do scientifically. And so I ended up switching ayanamshas, still doing a sidereal zodiac, and it got a little bit better. But when I started working with the calculations that were introduced to me, everything lined up nicely and neatly. I wasn't having to grab at things. My predictions were becoming much more accurate, a higher percentage of the time. And that really rocked my world on a lot of levels, because it was a huge paradigm shift for me. And in experiencing that paradigm shift, I went back and forth between the two. And I experimented over dozens of chart before I formally switched. And every time it was showing as more accurate, which was a very difficult thing for me to deal with. But it was something that was there. And, me saying that, sure, I'll catch a lot of flack for that, but I have to speak the truth. And that's why I did that. Okay. Is it for everybody? No, it may not be for everybody, because different astrologers work with different techniques, you see. But the techniques that I work with are in Brihat Parashara or Horus Shastra. Probably the main body of the techniques I work with are in chapter 45. And those seem to only work with what I use, and they don't work with the sidereal zodiac. And so then you have to wonder why Parashara would put something in Brihat Parashara or Horus Shastra if it didn't work. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. Saturn video in Purva Bhadrapada video. Well, when Saturn is in Purva Bhadrapada, then maybe I'll do that. But I don't usually just go through and do the planets in certain nakshatras. Okay. Let's read through some of these questions. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in scheduling with me, you can do so through the astrological services page of my website. It's linked above in this video, but also I'll type it into the window. Okay. Jupiter. Okay, I'm actually using the nakshatra calculations I use, which are based upon the Dhruva coordinates in Surya Siddhanta. Okay, just so you know, they're based upon the fixed star coordinates related to the nakshatras in Surya Siddhanta. The only thing is I judge those coordinates, or I should say my software judges those coordinates by drawing a right angle between the North Pole and the equator. And so it makes them a little bit different in terms of how other people would judge them. And I also use a different ayanamsha, but they are sidereal. So I have today Jupiter in Anuradha Nakshatra. Okay. And I didn't do a video on that, and so I haven't really looked at it. So I don't want to go into that because you'd have to take all the panchanga into account, which is what I generally tend to do. Okay. What software do I prefer? I use Kala Vedic astrology software. I've used it since 2006. Even when I still used a sidereal zodiac, I just find it's better because it's more customizable. Um, but it's just a matter of personal preference. Okay. Venus in Capricorn in the D9 means what as Atma planet? Pardon me. It depends on the well-being or lack of well-being of Venus and influences to it. Do Rahu, Ketu, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have special aspects? Rahu and Ketu do not create planetary aspects because they're not concrete planets. Okay, there's different opinions on that. You can always use Rashi aspects in any Varga chart. Rashi aspects on that line work better with Rahu and Ketu. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, it's best to use them with what are called the Tajika aspects. But Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, as they are planets that you can't see with the naked eye, you have to interpret them through the nodal axis. Interestingly enough, because the nodes act as a bridge between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and more of the internal planets like Saturn, etc. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. Is Mars strong in Pisces retrograde? It depends on the Baladi avastas, depends upon influences to Mars. Mars retrograde can be a very strong planet due to getting a boost in Shadbala through its Chestabala, but there are a lot of other things we'd have to take into consideration in terms of how productive that planet can be, because the concept of a planet having strong Shadbala and being productive are two different things. Somebody's saying, is there anything like group luck? Or if someone in a group is lucky, can it bring luck to the group and other people that are in the group? I would say that depends on if they all share astrology for that. Okay, that would be my answer to that. So another couple minutes, then I have to do my disappearing act, but just wanted to pop on here for a little bit. Okay, let's see. I'm only being quiet because I'm reading people's questions. Let's talk about Gandanta points. I think that Gandanta points are sometimes blown way out of proportion. They are an important concept in astrology, but if you have a strong Mercury, Gandanta points are not as bad, because if you notice, all the Gandanta points happen in mercurial associated nakshatras. It's because there's a shift going on between the gunas that are connected to the nakshatras. So the first Gandanta point is between the Rajasic and the Tamasic nakshatras, and the second Gandanta point is between the Tamasic and Sattvic nakshatras, and the third is between the Sattvic and Rajasic nakshatras. So there's a shift in energy tone. And if you have a good solid Mercury, it helps to give you the differentiation, discrimination, in order to take the difficulty in that transitional energy and make it something positive. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. So also, just so people know, if you didn't watch my video on what the nakshatras are the other day, I do recommend going to watch that. It's on my YouTube channel. You can probably find it posted on my Facebook page too. It's also posted on my website. But I talk about what the nakshatras actually are and what the nakshatras do in a horoscope, so you can understand that. I'm getting ready to start a series of mini video courses. Not many as in a multitude, but many as in miniature video courses that are like about, probably 2 or 3. I'm sorry, Blaze HD, but if I need to ignore, I will. Okay, well, okay, you get booted from my channel because you're being a royal pain in the butt here. There you go. All right. Okay. I don't like people coming on here and being abusive, just so everybody knows. So basically, what I was saying is I'm going to do a lot of miniature courses that are going to be like 3 classes long, 2 to 3 classes long, and make them about like $30 to $50 for people who want to purchase them, and they'll be available for immediate download after you purchase them. But I find myself in my courses reviewing a lot of the basics. And so in a lot of my in-depth courses, I end up having to teach these small miniature courses within the course. And I'm trying to eliminate the concept of doing that. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of those, and they'll be available as video courses for people. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Western astrology considers first house beginning at the degree of ascendant. I use the Campanus house system, but house cusps work different in Vedic astrology the way I use them than they do in Western astrology. It's a different concept. Okay. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for tonight. Again, if you want to book with me, there's a link in the video up above, but I'm also going to type it into the chat window now to my astrological services page. I believe I'm booking for the week of the 25th on at this point, so you can actually get in pretty soon if you want to book a consultation with me through my website. Thanks a lot for showing up and sharing your questions, and hopefully I'll be back on here again sometime soon. Take care of yourself, and bye now.